Hello everyone, my name is Loco, and welcome to a professional match of StarCraft 2. It's time for a Zerg versus Protoss on Tokamak, where in the bottom left-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg pieces, we have none other than Serral, considered to be one of the, if not the, very best players of all time. His opponent, though, in the top right, playing with the red Protoss pieces. His nemesis as of late. We're looking at none other than Classic's main Nexus. Now, I say Nemesis as of late, it's mostly just because I did cast a game recently between these two. That was a game that was close to an hour long, and ultimately, spoiler alert, it was Classic who became the victor. There were obviously a lot of mistakes from both players, especially at the very end. Serral decided to remax with a gajillion corruptors. It was a really fun match. Now, I mentioned, I believe, in that particular cast as well, that that particular game was game 3 of a best of 5 between those two. This particular match right over here is game 4. The entire best of 5 series was like a 3-hour-long slugfest, and I decided to, well, maybe just split it up in a couple of different... We'll just check out the best games instead, because a 3-hour-long series is a lot of fun to watch, but I do know that in general... it is probably a little bit too much for a single video, and also certainly a little bit, probably a bit too much for my voice, you know? If I'm doing like a super long cast, 3 hours of yapping is probably suboptimal for my voice, and, well, these are the type of games that are certainly very interesting. Now, I heard that this is a phenomenal game. I don't know who ends up winning it, but I've heard that this particular game right here on Tokamak is a phenomenal match, just like that other game between these two was. Now, this should be another long one. Right, so this was played right after that hour-long match. It's very important to note that for anything, right? If you're doing it for multiple hours in a row at the absolute highest level, it's going to be exhausting. Even though these players are obviously sitting down in a chair and they're just, you know, playing and moving their well, mouse and their keyboard around, right? In general, this is a very intense thing. I would love for somebody one day to do the study and figure out how many calories players at a tournament day actually burn. Because it's gotta be very, very high. Even though it's just your brain doing the vast majority of the work, right? Turns out the brain does use a lot of calories, and when you do play it, like... I mean, Serral is known to hit 500 average actions per minute, and look at him, he's already up to 450. Physically, it is actually also very, very intense. Anyway, so far, very normal build here from the both of them. It's going to be a Stargate start here for Classic, and Serral is... going for a third hatchery right now. By no means the fastest possible third hatch, but he's building it before an adept can really get across the map. And that is exactly what Classic is doing right now. Sending that first adept straight across. Sometimes if the Zerg delays it for a little bit too long, you might be able to delay, but you know, you can sometimes delay the third hatchery altogether here as Protoss. But we're mostly just doing a little bit of scouting. Wanted to get another Zergling kill for his troubles. Waiting for the Shade ability to be off cooldown, and then, yep, we're sending it back out once more. Okay. Actually, I feel like just having a lot of tournament experience also really helps with how comfortable you can really be, right? I mean, when you never play on a stage, right at the start of game number 1, you're probably going to be sitting in a chair with a heart rate of about 150 beats a minute, just sitting down. It's like being forced to do public speaking, but then, you know, public speaking at the absolute highest level. And keep in mind, a lot of the, well, esports professionals in general, especially in StarCraft, I would imagine, right? A lot of the guys, they don't necessarily spend a whole lot of time going out and, you know, going partying on the weekends and doing... No, a lot of the guys are pretty young players who, well, like to spend most of their time indoors. So to then go ahead and play in front of a crowd on a stage... it is absolutely nerve-wracking. Now, both Serral and Classic are seasoned veterans, of course. Serral's been playing for less long than Classic. Classic has been playing since, I want to say, the very beginning of StarCraft 2. He's following this up right now with a Twilight Council. Serral not yet building a... okay, there we go. A Spore Crawler over at the third, but he's adding that one into the mix right now. A lot of players will also be... like, there's a lot of things that are different at a tournament, right? So it's not just the stage, it's also the computer setup. It's the fact that, like, you have people looking at you when you glance right next to your monitor. It's also just these lights in your face. One of the most common complaints that we hear from pro gamers at tournaments is that whoever is organizing the event, they try to get this beautiful camera shot without pro gamers being present. And they didn't quite realize that pro gamers don't want to be playing with glare on their monitors and bright lights in their face. So there's always people asking for the lights to be turned down. And, you know, it's very warm, too, when you have those lights in your face. Anyways, we have a nice little adept follow-up here. They're gonna try and get into the base. Serral wanted to go for the block a little bit late right there with the evolution chamber. That means that these adepts are gonna be able to put in more work than they originally were going to. What about the shade into the main base? Do we have a follow-up push as well? Well, there is a stasis ward set up. Serral working against it. Shall we do a little bit of first-person view here? This is what Classic is looking at. While he's trying to target fire down every single one of those workers individually, he does lose every single one of those adepts right now, though, and that is a bit unfortunate, but he's been forcing the Zerg to be as annoying as possible. Gets a stasis ward on his way out. Oh, yeah, all right. Oracle one sneeze away from death, but he will be able to get it back up to at least maximum shields here in just a moment. Okay, so 8 drones, but also, maybe more importantly, a ton of lost mining time. And of course, he forced a lot of Zerglings out of this Zerg player too, and he really doesn't want to have this many of those bad boys running around at this point in time. I mean, you can't really do that much with them, so you'd much rather have additional workers. Still, though, the one nice advantage here that Serral does still have is that his economy is okay. It's not the end of the world, and his creep spread is pretty much unhalted so far. I would love to actually see those tumors moving one further forward, because there is some space here, but Serral already has quite a bit of the map gooped up at this point in time. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, though, we do have Blink finishing, and then we also already have Psystorm. I really love how fast Protoss players as of late have been getting their Sonic Storm. It is such a powerful ability. Because of that energy recharge, we've been seeing it more and more as of late. In both Protoss versus Zerg, but also in Protoss versus Terran, it's become very popular to go ahead and get that research going nice and quickly. Now, Serral is once more going into the Baneling nest. I find this very interesting. A lot of Zerg players have been shying away from the Banelings, especially in this matchup, ever since the Baneling got nerfed. I mean, at this point, that is quite recent, right? It's been maybe several years. And he's gonna go into the Baneling speed upgrade here immediately, too. So this wasn't just like a knee-jerk reaction against somebody making a lot of adepts or something along those lines. He's actually planning on going Ravager, well, Ling Bane, right? Ravager, Ling Bane, maybe some Roaches in the mix, too. This is one of those unit compositions that used to be extremely popular, but then it just fell off. So the nerf that they made to the Baneling, the most significant nerf, is that the Banelings can no longer one-shot probes with +2, and they also have 5 HP less. All right. Classic was just testing whether or not the weapons were working. All right, fair enough, yeah. So specifically Storm is something that can absolutely destroy Banelings. Obviously, though, we don't yet have all of the upgrades done. A lot of units are gonna try and waddle in here. I don't know why Classic is this deep onto Creep. I already highlighted the Creep just a second ago, but my god, was this a bad attack here for Classic. I have no idea why he was here. He was just setting up... I mean, if he assumed that Zerg didn't make any units, but it's not like Serral really underproduced units here. It's not like he underproduced drones. He was totally fine there. He built up to 74. Now we have a recall that's going to take out 3, almost 3 additional Stalkers there as well. A little bit sloppy. Very odd. He did have charge, but I didn't really see a lot of zealots there. Did we? Yeah, we made 1 so far. Now, that attack would have been a lot better if it wasn't for the fact that he just wasted a storm and the fact that there's a lot of creep over here already. Maybe in practice, he played against a bunch of Zergs where the creep is not this far out. Then suddenly an attack in this, well, direction can work out wonderfully, but... no. Don't really know exactly what he was planning. Anyways, you can, of course, still kill probes, right? With... well, that was really lucky there for Classic. 1 single zealot triggering all of those units. You can still kill the probes, but it does take multiple Banelings to try and get the job done. Hive right now already available, though, for Serral. Obviously, this is still a pretty quick follow-up, and he also just forced the cancel on a Nexus here at the 3 o'clock position. Ooh, okay, Hydra does not die. Honestly, well managed so far by Serral. A little bit sloppy by Classic, and that is going to make the rest of this game extremely difficult for him. Serral hasn't yet gone for an all-out attack at all. He's basically just been trying to absorb every single one of the attacks from the Protoss player take minimum damage in the process. I mean, these traits, as you can see, have been very cost-effective for him regardless. And obviously, in the meantime, he's built up a superior economy. We'll likely see him go across the map as soon as the lurkers are upgraded. So, Seismic Spines is coming up right now. We still need to get the burrow improvement for the lurkers too. That one will probably be queued up right after this one gets finished. Serral could also opt to just sit back and play it passively from there if he wants to, but for now, here we go again. Classic, I don't think you can go. There's no way. Nope. Yeah. And this is a cool style actually from Serral. Swoops in once more with the Zerglings. No cancel. Okay, there will be a cancel, but that is the secondary snipe of the 4th Nexus. I think the reason why Classic decided to go for that attack is that he assumed that Zerg was going to stick around on Ravager Ling Bane for a lot longer. Generally speaking, at least in the past, whenever we used to see Ravager Ling Bane, it was something that Zerg players stuck on for a whole lot longer, and then eventually they would transition to late game. But Serral really only stayed on Banelings here for a little bit, and then went straight into Lurkers as we have Classic now moving in. Does Classic have enough for this attack? Oh my god, absolute madman, he certainly does. I can't believe he decided to walk into the field of the Lurker Spines. Lings, though, coming from the other side of the map, those were the ones responsible for sniping that Nexus just a minute ago. The Zealot run-by is here now at the same time too, but it looks like Serral will be able to stabilize. I mean, that is a really big warp in to kill a single one of those spine crawlers with. Okay, yeah, a little bit ambitious on that one. I like that attack across the board from Classic, but it certainly could have gone horribly wrong. Right, if those spines of the lurkers would have immediately targeted down the flimsier targets, Serral could be manually targeting for that sort of thing. It would have been extremely painful for the Protoss. And now he's also trying to, in the meantime, execute a follow-up with full Skytles. Serral scouts this with a changeling, so he sees the follow-up here. He knows that it's going to be probably more Immortal production, and then also certainly those Tempests. You can see that it's going to be Tempest. And this is all executed off of effectively just 3 base economy. This is the 4th Nexus right now of Classic finishing up. 12 minutes into the game. It's by no means, well, early. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. Lucky here for Classic, Serral did not overproduce units and immediately retaliated with a counterattack. If he would have immediately countered, I think those Tempests would have been too late. Now Serral decides to go in. He didn't yet have a Spire, so his only form of anti-air for now that is great. His only form of anti-air for now will be those Hydras, and there's only a handful of them. So I think Serral needs to retreat. Yeah. Ballsy moves right here from Classic. Ballsy or reckless, I can't quite make up my mind. But it worked out reasonably well so far. One of the lurkers is going to get destroyed. Serral did leave a couple of other units behind as he's attempting a Ling Bane run-by. Okay, 8 probes, not bad. Immortal doesn't get wrapped around to just yet. Banelings settle for a couple pylons there. There was also a Zealot run-by in the meantime, but it looks like this lurker, together with the Spine, I quite like the Spine Crawler positioning there. Serral rebuilding it. Looks like they have managed to get rid of any units that decided to go across the map. Now, Tokamak actually features a pretty interesting mechanic. If you knock down the cooling tower, so obviously there's others as well on the other side of the map, you actually destroy the blue mineral field. So all of these blue mineral fields will go down if Classic decides to hit the towers. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Another Zergling run by those. Serral absolutely relentless with those. Mostly just trying to buy time to get those Corruptors out, and, well, he's building them now. He's already got 7. It's gonna make life way better. Mama Ship coming up for Classic. Serral's still leaving a lot of units around the map to make sure that he sees any incoming expansions here from the Protoss. And up until this point, I mean, Classic is fine, but I'm not really loving this position as much as I did in that previous game that these two played. I mean, we're coming up on that point, right? Where most of the Zerg players trade pretty poorly against Protoss, as there seems to be another Baneling roll-by over here. Serral, however, is perfectly capable of getting very cost-effective traits in this particular spot. We're now arriving at that super difficult to control Zerg late-game army, but Serral does it better than, well, all the other Zerg players out there. Very good at the Viper micro, the Baneling micro, the, well, Infestors moving in too. And he can take very effective trades from here, and he's already in a fantastic position from those previous situations. Now, these Roaches and Ravagers are being sacrificed. This is not Serral mis-microing it. He's ready to replace them with more supply-effective units. Like, for example, the Infestors, but also the Zerglings. He needed to get rid of them. Okay. Still, though, Classic has got his late-game Death Ball. It's not quite the ultimate Death Ball yet, but it's pretty darn good. Actually, you know what? He's got a very effective army here. Super difficult to control army as well here for the Protoss player. Now, one thing that Protoss, or that Classic in particular... Ooh, feedbacks. Good feedbacks. Good Storm. Serral, though, does still get a fungal growth off as he swoops in right now, too, with the... Ooh, with those Corruptors. Decides to not fight inside of the Time Warp bubble. That would reduce his movement speed, but also his attack speed by 50%. Super flimsy fight. In the meantime, there was also a Zergling run by, as well as a Zealot war going on over at the third. What I was going to try and say before this fight, Classic doesn't seem to like Skytle's upgrades. He's very late when it comes to those upgrades every single time. He's only got +3 attack for the ground units, but no other upgrades coming in, and nothing else really going on. And that puts him into this weird all-in-y position now, because he's late with those upgrades. He doesn't have a 5th base. I am starting to be a little bit concerned here for the Protoss, even though he still has this banger of an army. And I know there's a lot of Zerg players watching this, kind of cringing at this army from the Protoss player, because it's difficult to beat, but Classic doesn't have a ton of longevity here. He's getting the Tectonic Destabilizers. That's the Tempest, well, anti-building upgrade. Very nice to see. But he doesn't have any Cybercore research. He doesn't have any shields research. He doesn't have any armor upgrades on his ground units, although I think that's probably the least important ones to head on over for right now. Yeah. He needs to be careful. Now, Serral's got the Brute Lords coming. Only a single Brute, 3 Brutes. Still constantly harassing with the Zerglings, and he did actually manage to snipe that base over there, too. Classic apparently decides to give up on that base as he's trying to now navigate another expansion in the far bottom right. And that means that this base here from the Zerg is becoming absolutely critical to destroy. He needs to get the job done over here. Decent Storm. Brute Lords are now out, though. He's got 1 Oracle in the mix. Oracle really needs to be tagging the Brutes if possible. He did get a glimpse right there of a few Brute Lords. Looks like there's another Zergling run by, another Lurker being annoying. No supply available for Classic right now to really get a Zealot run by in, but this is, yeah, a ton of Protoss army supply right over here. And you know what? He does have... Oh, no, we should go! He finally had the Tempest in position to kill the hatchery. If you need the Zerg to back up out of this spot, you do it by killing the hatch for sure. Serral, though, so powerful with these Lurker run-bys, right? Like, the backstabbing that he's constantly going for while inviting the Protoss into this defensive position where the Lurkers can actually reach, it is not easily managed, and it's now, well, forced Classic to back up for a little bit. Now the upgrade is done, though. And you can really see. The upgrade here, it deals double damage to structures. Corruptors, though, decide to swoop in. A lot of Archons available on the ground. Okay, we do get a couple of nice snipes there, too. Okay. The hatchery is now gone, though. The creep spread has been mostly managed. And it looks like Serral is giving up on this position. Classic, we need to get upgrades. Like, this is all fine for now, but Serral's still improving his units past that maxed out stage. We really need to get those Skytles upgrades going. Especially the attack upgrades are nice if we ever want to go into carriers, but also just any defensive posture here is going to be massive. Any defensive upgrades here is big. It's not like they're super expensive. Classic can easily afford them right now. Did he... Oh, he doesn't have a Cybercore. He just lost the Cybercore over here to those Lurkers. So we make 2, Classic. We make... It's a bit weird to not have a Cybercore 19.5 minutes into a game. But we just make 2 and we start double upgrading. We should build them over here. Oh, he's got the probe selected? Come on, lads. Oh, for some reason you didn't make the cut. Fair enough. Serral now goes into the armor research. Armor here for the flying units. It doesn't really help very much against Psionic Storm, or not much against Archons either, but it is still important to have. And ultimately, it's the only way to improve your army past the maxed out stage. So here we go. He's now building a Cybercore again. I don't know why. Classic always does this, it seems. In some of the games that I've seen him play, he just does not go into mass upgrades in the late game. I don't understand why. Seems zero reason for it right now. He's been maxed out for ages. He's got 4,000-ish resources in the bank. A little bit more than that, even. Okay. He decides to recall. Really needs to get rid of those freaking lurkers, man. Serral not going for any of the night display, by the way. He's just walking the lurkers, using the top lane of the map to his advantage and just running him through the center of the map. It's a interesting way of getting them in. A lot of the Zerg players out there, like for example Rogue, he would be favoring night display for sure at this point in time, but Serral just walking the units. Here come the Brute Lords. Gets an Archon. Okay. Classic. Can we please? Sometimes... Whew, finally, he realized it. Sometimes when you're playing a game of StarCraft, you get like a red mist in front of your eyes, right? Like you're just tunnel visioned on trying to get the game done. And I think this is probably a Protoss player who is experiencing, let's just call it a lot of success at this stage of the Protoss versus Zerg meta. Where when he gets here on the ladder, the game's done. I wouldn't even be surprised if a lot of Zerg players would be tapped out already if this was a ladder game. Obviously, Serral has a ton of money in the bank. What about this engagement over here, though? A couple of the infestors sleeping on the job. Brute Lords do get stutter-stepped. Okay. Serral actually not paying attention there for just a split second. Loses a bunch of units. Lurkers come running back in here. Yeah, there's no denying that a lot of Zerg players hate playing this position that Serral is in right now. So maybe Classic has just been winning a lot of games and he hasn't had a need for upgrades. Seems to me, though, that he's just not considering getting any of those upgrades until he's considering going carriers, which is just odd to me. He's only just now going for it after getting that that carrier transition going. Man. How many Nexi have died this game? I mean, it's been a lot of cancels, so technically 0. But we've seen like 5 or 6 going down. In the meantime, though, Classic has also killed 6 hatcheries. Using his entire army like a blunt object. Just moves in, slams the base, goes back home. And even though I was quite critical of this far bottom right base, he got the job done, and I don't think Serral is aware of it at all. Okay, no, he's seen it just now, but... yeah, there's not a whole lot he can do about it. He's taken up shop now in the top left. Nidus network also coming up. Yeah, I guess the Tempest don't really benefit that much from attacking upgrades, although they obviously still do. They obviously have pretty slow attack animations, though, so they just don't benefit as much as, like, a carrier. Fungal growth, big feedbacks. Great control action on those feedbacks. We do have the High Templar a little far forward. Corruptor swoop in, Time Warp mispositioned. No Archons underneath the Mothership. So Classic takes a terrible fight there. The feedbacks were good, but then he just stopped microing, it seemed. Or at the very least, he was not microing it particularly effectively anymore. Serral once more swoops in with these relentless counterattacks. Seems like he's got these units on a control group by themselves. It's a funny combination of units, but excellent at sniping bases. Okay. Neuroparasite now also coming up. That will allow the Zerg to temporarily take control of any of those overextensions. I think Serral may have tried to go in for the Neuroparasite in some of those units and then realized he didn't have it. Pretty cheap upgrade, but also a pretty easy one to forget. Those Lurkers having a grand old time. Yep, in combination with maxed out Zerglings. I mean, keep in mind, those Zealots don't have armor upgrades. That's why they're melting. Normally, Zealots, they will actually put up a pretty dang good fight against Zerglings. But these are +3 melee, +2 armor Zerglings versus, well, unarmored? Can we call them unarmored? They have no shields upgrades. No, yeah, it's just not that great. Mothership now coming up once more. +2 air weapons, finally researching 24 minutes into the game. Okay, so where are we now, right? Where are we at this point in time? Both players are still trying to hurt each other's economies, but ultimately, about 50% of the map has been taken. There's this base over here that Protoss can still acquire, and then there's this base over here for the Zerg that's, well, Serral already had a little bit ago. Using the Nidus Worms right now as a body block, that's cute. It's going to force a recall on a lot of that Protoss army. Serral decides to say, nope, I'll be out. Leaves one lurker behind just to be a bit of a prick. In the meantime, he's also counterattacking over here. Classic now decides to go for a bunch of static defense together with that Nexus, not just leaving it by itself. Serral careful though. Ooh, he's hoping he can actually get some work done. There was an observer here in the mix. This army here for the Zerg could easily get shut down. Serral, in the meantime, still being an absolute nuisance with those relentless counterattacks. So we switch to a little bit of Serral first-person view. I've seen some YouTube comments of people saying, Loco, please stop using the first-person view. I'm watching these while I'm having dinner, and they make me nauseous. Sorry to whoever's eating right now, but I love watching the first-person view. And these are my videos. Ha! God, no, but like I think it's impressive, right? There's so much to manage. There's so many different fights going on. There's so many little decisions that you have to constantly make. I think watching the first-person view puts it a little bit more into perspective. Because a lot of the decisions you make are also based off of the information that you've gathered, right? So both Serral as well as Classic are trying to make calls right now depending on what they've seen from the opponent. So you have to make an estimation, like a calculated guess, as to how much economy the opponent has. Turns out Classic is pretty much broke. Serral doesn't have much more than that, but he does have a bit more income. I love the amount of static defense, though, that Classic has been building around. It really is allowing him a lot more mining, and while Serral here is working on that base in the far bottom right, Classic is working on the base in the top left. I think he should go. Now, he knows that the army is located nearby, but... alright. Lurkers, of course, do outrange the static defense here, which is why the Lurkers are still present. There's a lot of overlap between the Lurker and the Brute Lord, at least in like straight up engagements, but Lurkers are fantastic at this super annoying stuff. Now we have a Nidus Worm as well in the back of the main base here, off the Protoss player. I kind of feel like Serral is just one step ahead in every moment of the game. That is not to say that like Classic is out of the woods here, or that he's like out of the game here. Like he's not in a comfortable position, but he has a banger of an army. And ultimately, this is the type of game that gets decided by both of those armies clashing. It takes but one mistake here from Serral to, well, still throw this one. But I am very impressed with the way that he is controlling everything across the board. Zergling run-bys are really starting to hurt now. It's also forced a full recall all the way back home. Nidus Worm now behind the third. Yeah. So the way Classic wins this is with a main engagement. But then he's not upgrading his units, so winning a main engagement is very difficult to pull off. Like, we're still only at +2 air attacks, nearly a half hour into the game. It's not like Serral has been 100% on top of those, by the way. I would have liked to see him go for the +3 armor here as well for his flying units in particular. Serral, though, using his limited APM, I guess, even though he's playing at 424 on average. Yeah, to just maximize all the values here as possible. Neither player really optimally mining any of it, but or upgrading any of it, but it's very notable here that Classic does not have nearly as much as he could. Huh, I love this. The Tempest get recalled, an Observer gets nearby as well, so that means that these units are dead. Can he still snipe the Nexus on his way home? Well, with the Zerglings joining in, certainly. Okay. Yep, there's Serral with the +3 air armor. Classic. He's completely forgotten. He did remake a forge just now. Where's that forge? Okay. For some reason, it's one of the last things standing over here in the bottom right. Couple of changelings inside of the main base. This is outside of the vision range of Classic, so he can't see that there is another Nidus Worm building. So what Serral's main objective should be at this point in time is to continue going with this little bit of aggression and the constant frustrations, and then maybe force Classic into a fight he would rather not take. Still though, Serral needs to win the main engagement. He's decided to smash some of his piggy bank here on +3/+3, and then even +3 as well inside of the Greater Spire. That will fully max out everything that he's got. And while Classic could make the argument that he didn't need upgrades a little while ago, I mean, I'm talking like half a game ago, like 15 minutes ago, he was at this maxed out, well, unit composition already. He's effectively not improved it very much. So the tunnel visioning, it didn't quite work out for him yet. Serral's now going to take care of that, that extra forge here too. Not going to be around for much longer. And Classic has been fully boxed into his starting corner of the map. Okay. Brilliant game so far by Serral. Still though, I mean, I keep saying it, right? But I can really easily see this going horribly wrong for the Zerg. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit biased. I have lost many, many games against Skytos myself. It's an extremely difficult unit composition to beat. And this is one of the very best players in the world controlling the army. Classic really has some of the very best late-game micro that we see. He's extremely good at microing these type of, well, compositions. It's not easy. Oh, great feedbacks. A lot of the High Templar did also take damage, but we've seen way more Templar going down. There is one Neural Parasite that is still sustaining itself, but that is not the way to fight that at all. And this is what I was trying to say, man. One bad engagement and everything goes horribly wrong. Serral gave it a shot. He was hoping that Classic was sleeping on the job. Classic just feigning it. Hits all of the feedbacks perfectly, and suddenly, this bulldozer army of the Protoss is starting to march through. Base in the top left died within seconds. Serral doesn't have his entire army supply nearby, though. It's because he still has a whole lot of units on the other side of the map, counterattacking and backstabbing wherever possible. Classic doesn't really want to be too deep onto creep. He decides to recall. Are there any observers still? Yeah, there are a bunch of them. Okay, he decides to just recall back home, though. Reset the engagement. Spent what little money he has on remaxing out and add a bunch of Void Rays into the mix. He did get a new Nexus up, by the way. But it's gonna show you the volatility of that Zerg late game army. Like, effectively, Zerg here is spec'd into full damage, but very little sustainability. You know, this is like your typical glass cannon. Like, I don't know, if you play RPGs or whatever, this is like your typical fire mage. Full damage. Massive damage in a very short amount of time, but very little sustainability. Serral going for one swarm host. That's a misclick. Yeah, that's, you know, don't get too excited. That is 100% a misclick. There's no way. I know that somebody set up straighter when I said, you know, they're like, oh, swarm host? No, that, no. Sorry to that one person out there, but storm it, dude. This is a juicy storm. We know you want to storm it. Ah, I would have stormed it there if I was Protoss 100%, even though it's a waste. There's nothing more satisfying than killing 69 of those High Templar in one storm. Okay. There's actually a lot of Zerg players that have apparently unhotkeyed the Swarm Host button altogether, or they've put it on like a position that you can't accidentally hit. Serral apparently not one of them. But he is still... Where are you finding the APM, bro? How are we finding the APM? Okay, anyway. We have one little group of locusts flying in. Serral's still sending Zerglings and Lurkers and everything around the map, though, constantly to be as annoying as possible. The fight did reset the banks, though. Neither player has a particular... How did this expansion just die? What just happened here? Did I just, like, shift my camera back when the final hit came in? Yeah, I must have. That was very odd. Like, I got here and all I saw was a little blood splatter. Ah, it was a couple of those. Okay, I see. Yeah, the maximum range right there of those Tempests killing it. Even though Serral has been, in my mind, slightly ahead for the entirety of the game, Classic has taken the better overall fights. If he can have another engagement like the one that we just saw, how many Templar does he have? Only 5. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a few more in the mix. I think there's only like 3 with this main army right now. I think the feedbacks that he had in that engagement in the top left a few minutes ago, those were really game deciding. Having more Templar, if possible, would be massive. Now, if we look at the banks of those 2 players right now too, Classic has been navigating the late game brilliantly once more. Even though he hasn't been mining much, he mined when it mattered, and then he took a bit of a break from it, right? Really getting a massive army going, focusing on reducing the Zerg economy and the army size instead. But now, he's found himself with a bigger bank than the Zerg. He's fully maxed out, whereas Serral is not. Those Zerglings, though, have been an absolute pain here, right? Like, I mean, look at the supply count right now. 195 over 118. Classic has lost so many Nexi, so many pylons, that his supply count right now is, well, extremely low. He's spending some of the minerals that he's got over here on photon cannons, and okay, now we have 10 pylons. When's the last time? Look at this. We even have him walling in the main ramp. When's the last time you've seen 11 pylons on the production tab? Can't blame the man. He's been heavily supply blocked while being maxed out. There's not really a lot of urgency, but it is something that needs to be sorted out, and he makes the perfect number. Yeah, bunch of photon cannons now over here too, so lurkers and Zerglings can't easily break this position and, well, shut down whatever's left over. Here's that base again. Great feedbacks, man. Nice fungal growth as well, though, by Serral, who really is making it difficult now for the Protoss player to escape. We have some parasitic bombs going down, too. Ah, man, Classic, we're taking so much damage from those parabombs. Careful, though. Still, the Protoss units here in the sky, they have a lot of HP, and as long as he backs out... Yep, that's exactly what he does right now. He has taken some hull damage on some of those big, beefy Protoss ships, but they will regenerate their shields. I mean, I don't want to talk about upgrades again, but seriously, though. How are we still at only +2 air? Serral did cancel, apparently, the +3/+3 for the ground units, which I find kind of interesting. I think he made it, or he started those upgrades, and then he realized, okay, actually, I need to spend those resources on something else. This is a war that will be decided by the flying units and the spellcasters. No reason to spend all that money. Overextension here by the Protoss player. Mothership goes down, and one of the Tempest also falls. Zergling sleeping on the job for just a little bit. A lot of the flying units for Zerg, though, did take a bit of a bruising. Fleet Beacon coming up. New Cybercore once more coming up for Classic. That's the 3rd time that he's building a Cybercore. I kind of feel like Serral is playing at, like, maximum effort. And I'm sure Classic is as well, but we're seeing a bunch of blunders that are making this game extremely difficult here for the Protoss. Obviously, margin for error is tiny, but Serral is most definitely playing the cleaner game. This, over here, is basically the only mining still available here for Protoss. It's pretty well protected, but Brute Lords can quickly break it. This over here is effectively the only mining for Serral, though, but he is trying to retake 2 bases once again. Yeah, the Brute Lords are here. Recall was executed, so Serral decides to back up again. Mothership coming up. That's the 3rd mothership, I believe, in this game. Maybe the 4th? No, it's gonna be the 3rd. It's the step mothership. Yeah. You'll have to see it. Okay, extra Stargates. Dude, Classic actually getting some good money here from this base. Serral, though, is not gonna try and see if he can get this a whole lot longer, right? We have an Immortal going down there, a couple High Templars falling, and now the Brute Lords are gonna continue working on some of those buildings. At this point, Classic has got all of his eyes over here, so Serral is finishing up 2 bases in the meantime, all the way on the other side of the map. That can easily save him. Still, though, those infestors are critical, right? Great feedback there on the Viper. High Templar, absolutely critical here for Classic. He's got 6 of them right now, which I like a lot better than what he had earlier. Couple of Queens a little too far forward. And that means that Serral does actually lose the position over here. I thought he was going to double down. Not quite the case. Okay, It's a difficult fight to read when there's this many moving parts, but it's most important here to pay attention to the spellcasters and where the corruptors are located in comparison to the Archons. So Archons can deal splash damage to clumped up units. And if the Archons are capable of fighting against Corruptors when they swoop in to try and snipe with their relatively low range, right? Those carriers, the Mothership, the Tempest, if they're able to get underneath and actually gun down the Corruptors, Zerg will lose their army very, very rapidly. Nice. Oh, perfect actually there by the Protoss player. He got a really nice snipe there on some of those units. Still though, Serral moves in anyways, but the feedbacks here are absolutely phenomenal. We do have an abduction. Okay, that's another one of the carriers down the drain. Classic has more money available though, and he has carved the path towards this top left-hand corner once again. Serral evacuates, counterattacks with Zerglings, but not a whole lot that he can really get done. Great fight there by Classic in the end. The fact that he had the Revelation thrown down on those, well, tunneled infestors, right? And managed to get the feedbacks down right before the infestors met. I mean, that was absolutely critical. Bunch of Hydras over here, trying to see if they can actually help out in the battle as well, but I think all they can do is die. Serral decided to tunnel a couple of them, but the burrow is not gonna save them. So the way that the High Templar deal damage with their feedback ability is they deal half a point of damage for every point of energy that the unit that they are feedbacking has. Infestors, to my knowledge, are the only units in the game that when they are at full HP, will actually die to a feedback. So Serral is in a weird way better off if he has his infestors at like 75% energy. Those infestors have been dying left, right, and center. How many have we had? 27. You kidding me? 27 infestors? I mean, it's been 30 High Templar as well. By the way, we're 41 minutes into the game. Classic is still not fully maxed with the upgrades. As a matter of fact, he doesn't have any armor upgrades in this game at all. Not for the flying units, not for the ground units. Zerglings still stabbing him though, wherever possible. It feels to me like Classic has been playing this entire game in full panic mode. But you know, it's been like 30 minutes of full panic, you know? Like, at some point, you'd imagine we can kind of get back to maybe he just feels comfortable playing this way, but it all feels extremely edgy. Either way, Tempest swoop in. Oh, good feedbacks again. Those times, though, it did not quite kill him, and you know what? The fungal growth may just swoop in too, and it's now allowing the Zerg to move through. We have parasitic bombs. We have the Corruptors targeting down whatever. No opportunity to storm anything anymore because the Brute Lords are destroying everything on the ground, and obviously it would deal a lot of friendly fire too. That was the fight that Serral had been looking for the entire game long. That could not have gone a whole lot better. The fact that those infestors actually live, I mean, this could have all been dead, right? The fact that they were there and able to cast additional, it makes a massive difference. And suddenly, this is one of the most brutal army-sized graphs I've ever seen. Suddenly, what was a Protoss supply count advantage has taken an absolute nosedive. Now, some of it is because Serral has spent what little money he has, getting back up to full once more. Some of it is certainly those upgrades from Protoss being incredibly lackluster, but most of it was phenomenal control there by Serral. He had been patiently looking for an opportunity and then finally grabbed it with both hands when he saw that he could. Okay. And now because of all of those run-bys, all of those Zerglings, Lurkers, we've had whatever unit across the map, Classic economy is an absolute, well, it's in tatters. He doesn't have a whole lot remaining anymore. Forced to remax with Stalkers here, but you know, fungal growth obviously will shut them down too. Brute Lord Infestor. It's been one of the best unit compositions ever since the early days of StarCraft 2. It lost popularity for a long time, and this is certainly a very complex version of Brute Lord Infestor. That is mostly not Brute Lords and mostly not Infestors, but those two units, they still work together very, very nicely. And I believe what we're witnessing here is Serral shutting down the final mining here of Classic. Classic wants to go across the map. He doesn't know how much mining Serral still has. He will see that this base is mining over here, though. This expansion over here, Serral finished all of the expansions in the far bottom right. He's got 3 hatcheries there once more. Zerglings are here to clean up whatever. Brute Lords decide to group up together again in the middle of the map. I mean, there is a hatchery snipe, but I mean, this is copium. Although he is gonna go for a second hatchery snipe, too. Classic is like, nah, 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 nah. Can't fly a command center to the corner of the map, but I can do this. Nah, 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 nah. I mean, this is the most effective group of Stalkers I've seen in a while. Serral going for the neural parasites? You see that? He tried to neural a Stalker there. That is effectively Serral saying, get the out of my game. To be fair, though, that is 3 hatcheries for a handful of Stalkers. It's just that Classic now has this. This is his army. Now, this could be a good army. You know, at like minute 6. Okay, there's a couple of Tempest available too. It's just that against this army of the Zerg, Serral's actually like very concerned, I think. Like he's wondering if there's actually more here for the Protoss than he can imagine there could be, but yeah, there is no way. There is absolutely no way. Well played. Extremely well played here by Serral. GG gets called. Extremely well played right there by Serral. I don't think you could really make that a whole lot better for the Zerg than that particular fight that we just saw. Why is my camera all the way to the side? There we go. I don't think you could really have a better engagement than that really big one at the end. Honestly, though, across the board, and I think this may be some of the fatigue setting in, across the board here, this was a relatively sloppy game from Classic, even though he held on for every single attack, and we just saw some critical errors, like a bunch of mistakes that you really aren't supposed to be, quote-unquote, supposed to be making at this level of StarCraft 2. GG's.